Welcome to episode 17 of the podcast, Like You Didn't Know. This week's scary movie of the week is American Mary, and it follows this college girl who's in med school seems like she's from a foreign country, like Bulgaria or somewhere, Hungary, just based on conversations that she has with her mother. So it seems like she's pretty much in America by herself, trying to make a better life for herself, pretty much. But she's your typical broke college student, working 2-3 different jobs, trying to balance that and schoolwork and keeping up with her classes. And then it seems like she's almost done because she's starting to do like rounds in the hospitals and different stuff. But she ends up meeting this woman, or this woman finds her to pretty much recruit her / pay her a lot of money to do body modification surgery on this one girl. But this was after she had applied to be a stripper with her resume. So her information was just out there for everybody to see. And so she does it, and the surgery is a success or whatever. And so more people start coming to her. But in between that, there's some trauma with her professors and just different things going on in her life that kind of push her to really get into body modification. It's more so a thriller, not necessarily horror. I guess the horror part is if you don't like watching people cut up into bodies, that could be kind of graphic. But it was a recommended movie by this girl I follow on TikTok, and it was okay, but it wasn't. I guess it wasn't what I thought it was gonna be. I guess I expected more graphic nature, kind of like some of the other movies where women have been raped and abused and stuff in Snap. But it's still an interesting little movie. If you like, I would categorize it as a slasher film. If you like those kind of films, I would definitely recommend it. This week's ridiculous lawsuit comes to you courtesy of PETA. In 2011, a 6-year-old, as they say it on their website, male free-living crested macaw in Indonesia, pretty much snatched up a man's camera and started taking pictures. And so the photographer published the photos because it's his camera. And PETA sued the photographer, claiming that the monkey was the author of the photos, and that that him publishing those photos infringed on the monkey's copyright. Obviously, in January of, I guess, that year, a federal judge dismissed the lawsuit because obviously it's a monkey. He doesn't know anything about law or pictures. He probably didn't even realize he was taking pictures. If you've seen any pictures, videos, or whatever about how the monkeys are in countries like that, they just be snatching stuff from people, cell phones, food, of course, just anything. Camera is something metal and shiny, and it's probably just something he wanted to play with because he's obviously probably watching the human play with it. He wants to see what it's about. But as I'm sure you've noticed, PETA likes to. Apparently, they don't really have much to do because obviously there's more pressing things going on in the world than some of the stuff people do to animals. But it seems like they pick and choose what they really have a problem with, because I feel like there's people that are out here abusing and mistreating animals on purpose, and PETA doesn't seem to know anything about it or care. But I just thought it was interesting that out of all the little research that I've done on ridiculous lawsuits, that PETA had not popped up before in one of my little search histories. But there you have it. PETA is still being PETA. Even in 2011. Who knows what they've done recently. I remember them, I don't know if they sued her, but they had an issue with Lady Gaga and her meat suit and a whole bunch of different stuff. I'm like, if y'all have such an issue, get the grocery store shut down and stop them from selling meat. And shut down all the farms and all that stuff. Like if that's what y'all really want to focus on, some of these animals that we eat are actually being held in disgusting and vile places. So how about you go and go visit them and see about improving the animal's way of life. Like, people are gonna eat meat. That's not gonna stop, and PETA cannot stop that, because I'm pretty sure meat makes a lot of money. So let's focus our efforts on improving the quality of life of these animals, even if it's just animals that are going to be killed. Because I know I've read articles in the past about how depending on the way the animals are killed, certain toxins or certain things can be released into their like bloodstream, their meat and everything, that could potentially harm us. So, I mean, of course you want them to be living a great life before they get killed for food, but it's just, PETA's interesting. I feel like PETA is along the same lines as Candace Owen. They sound, every now and then they make a good point, but majority of the time they sound stupid. This week's bizarre way to die is about one of our founding fathers that I had never heard of. And probably, unless you're really big into history, you've probably never heard of him either. I know I'm going to butcher his name, but I think it's Gouverneur Morris. And he was American statesman, diplomat, and financial expert who helped plan the U.S. decimal coinage system. And oddly enough, he died on my birthday in 1816. But November 6th, 1816. And this man, just reading about him, like, he was smart. Like, he helped, he studied law. He was admitted to the bar. He served in the Provincial Congress, where he helped fight for provisions for religious toleration in the first state constitution. Like, he literally helped form America in the beginning. He was a lieutenant colonel in the New York State Militia, and then he sat on the Continental Congress and was one of the signers of the Articles of the Confederation. But as we all know, no matter how smart you are, there's always a chance that you could potentially do something stupid. So apparently this man had a urinary tract infection. So his response to that was to use a piece of whalebone as a catheter in an attempt to clear the blockage in his urinary tract. So needless to say, he caused himself probably pretty significant and very painful, especially, like, this was in the 1800s. So he caused himself pretty bad internal injuries and an infection that even today, they'd probably just have to cut it off. Like, if you're shoving stuff like that up your body. And I don't know how big this whalebone was. Maybe it was, it's a whale, so obviously it's probably pretty big. But, I guess he was thinking maybe if I shove it up there far enough, it'll clear it out, because that's how the body works. But, needless to say, he died. And they buried him at St. Anne's Church in the Bronx. But it just goes to show that no matter how smart you are, at some point in life, you'll probably do something dumb. I would like to forewarn you that this week's main topic may cause some people to think twice about taking a flight instead of driving. Me, even just reading it, I'll probably just bring my own little sanitizing wipes, because they definitely used to give them out to you, but I guess they decided, hell, COVID's pretty much over, so we're not going to do that anymore. But I'll probably just bring my own sanitizing wipes or whatever, because at 34 years of age, I don't feel like driving 4 hours, let alone 10, 12 hours. But apparently this one company did a touch swab test of 10 points on an airline, and it failed, pretty much. It failed, all 9 of them. So only one passed. So the germ detection device reads, I guess, the germ level on different places. And so, of course, we've all been on planes where people are coughing and sneezing and digging in their nose and wiping their hands on stuff. So, it's not surprising that airplanes are nasty, because these airplanes fly 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day, ferrying hundreds of people all over the place. So, anybody hopping on a plane thinking it's going to be clean is only kidding themselves. But this was interesting that they don't even have federally regulated cleaning practices, the Federal Aviation Administration. Which just goes to show you, if I can pay $600-700 for a ticket, the least you could do is clean the damn plane. But I mean, the Centers for Disease Control offers guidance on how to clean contaminated areas, but it doesn't force them to do it, basically. So like I said, I know during COVID, they used to give out the little sanitizing wipes. And for a while, they were still, like, the probably second to last flight I took, they were still giving them out. But now I guess they said, hell, we ain't about to waste our money doing that anymore. But so I guess basically each airline is pretty much left to their own devices and can determine how much of cleanliness they'd like to do. So they said Delta actually had to turn back a plane last month, which this article was written or released on October 8th. So this is recent. They had to turn back a plane when a passenger suffered a severe case of diarrhea, which obviously, I mean, as you know, if anybody farts on a plane, it goes over the whole plane. And they've had to ground planes because people's fart smells were making people sick. But Delta says they try to remove the trash, disinfect the surfaces, and restock flights on lavatories grounded for 4 hours or less. But in reality, I highly doubt that they're doing all this. And they claim that the plane receives a deep clean overnight, which is great. But how many different people are getting on that plane throughout the day? Like, it's great so really your first flight could be clean, but any ones that you take after that, it's probably not going to be very sanitary. American Airlines, they said that they kind of do the same thing and follow the CDC recommendations. They disinfect high traffic areas throughout the day and wipe down common touch points like seatbelts, tray tables, armrests. But my thing is, sometimes, majority of the time, when I walk out to go into the airport after getting off a flight, people are sitting there waiting for that plane. So I'm like, how much do they really do if you literally probably start boarding not long after people disembark? Because normally when people are walking out, I'm normally not sitting there waiting for an hour or two for them to disinfect the plane. Like, within the next probably 10-15 minutes, once everybody's off the plane, you start boarding. So in my mind, I'm like, they're probably not really, and especially since it's only maybe 3-4, maybe depending on how big the plane is, maybe 6 flight attendants. So you mean to tell me they're literally walking through each aisle and disinfecting each seat by hand? I don't think so. Southwest says that they have aircraft maintenance technicians, and they clean and wash and polish the planes inside and out periodically, and periodically replace the seat covers and aisle rugs. So, and I love flying Southwest because 9 times out of 10 their tickets are cheaper, and they you tend to have more room. You got to pay for bags unless you have like 10 bags. But it's just, I feel like I'm getting more for my money with Southwest. But apparently now I see I definitely need to take my sanitizing wipes and keep them on me so that I can disinfect their shit, because it doesn't seem like they do anything. JetBlue claims that they clean the interiors, including the seats and carpet areas, during scheduled stops. And then at night, they'll do the sidewalls, coffee pots, and tray tables, which I've read articles about how you should not drink the water. Don't get any water or tea, hot water for tea from airlines, because they don't clean that stuff. Pretty much, if it's not in a can, you probably don't get ice, like none of that stuff. Like, you should probably just, if it's not in a can, you probably shouldn't be drinking it. And then according to JetBlue, according to this article, if the night owl schedule is better because it's a little clean. Like I said, it's a little cleaner. So because if they clean the planes overnight, because obviously they're not really going to have time to clean it during the day, it's going to be clean that first flight. And I hate taking 7 a.m. flights, but I feel like if I can avoid getting sick, because who wants to get sick, especially on their vacation or when they come back, it might behoove me to take the earlier flights. So apparently there's this device from Charm Sciences that they use to test that's what they use to test the cleanliness of the airplane. And this one, they only tested one side, the bathroom vanity, which obviously nasty, because I've been sitting in my office and listen to people walk in, use the bathroom, and walk right back out. So I know the bathroom vanity, everything is probably disgusting. Because I imagine people in there picking their nose, blowing their nose, wiping. Uh, the airplane bathrooms are already small. So, I mean, there's really not much room anyway. So it's hard for you to not touch anything, period, as it is. But I can only imagine what goes on inside the bathrooms. But needless to say, and I feel like anybody should know this without being told, but planes are basically petri dishes. Like, anytime you walk on a plane, just assume it's covered in germs. They may or may not necessarily make you sick, but I mean, you never know. I'm sure they found things like probably E. coli and who knows what else. Because they even say that I've read articles that say that they found that stuff on the bottom of our shoes, which has prompted me to kind of be wary about walking around my house in my shoes that I walk around outside in. But like the infectious particles can get spread obviously through direct contact or inhalation. I mean, I've been on, especially now that people don't wear masks anymore, people be coughing and sneezing and grown ass people not covering their mouths. Of course, your risk just depends on what kind of organism this person may be spewing, and then how close you are to the actual person. To lower the risks, because that's literally all you can do, this article recommends hand sanitizer, of course, which I always keep on hand, and then get your antibacterial wipes and just wipe down the surfaces. Obviously, it may be in good practice to wash your hands as soon as you get into the airport after you finish touching all those screens to check in and everything. And then, I guess try your best not to touch the seats in the actual sitting area, which of course you could use your little sanitizing wipes for that too. But I mean, just be proactive and cognizant of the fact that everything is nasty, basically, pretty much everywhere you go. Like anytime I go somewhere and come back in the house, even if it's just to Walmart, Kroger, the grocery store, wherever I may decide to go, I always wash my hands. Like, that's the first thing I do. I put my purse down, wash my hands, and then I get my little sanitizing wipes and sanitize my keys, my phone, and my actual purse, because I feel like especially if you're like going to get your hair done or whatever, if you're sitting it down on something, which I don't sit my purse down on the floor at all, but just sitting it on a countertop, maybe you sit on a countertop to rummage through it to get your wallet, whatever you may be doing. Like, you don't know what germs your purse, shoes, hands, whatever have picked up. So I just make it a habit. And I was doing this way before COVID, which is one thing about COVID that really surprised me, that everybody was buying up the Lysol wipes. Because I'm like, y'all ain't even used this shit before. I was using this every day, just made it a habit. And I'm like, that's why, knock on wood, I don't ever really get sick. Like, I might get a little sniffle every now and then, but the last few months or whatever, and I work around kids all the time. But when I work around those kids, when I come back in the house, before I even leave, I'll either wash my hands, or if I'm just hurrying out or don't think about it, I sanitize my hands when I get in the car. Then when I get home, my same little routine. Take off my shoes, wash my hands, put my stuff down, and make sure I sanitize everything. My phone, key, anything I may have touched. Because, I mean, germs are out there. Kids are germy. People are germy. People are just nasty. Like, people go in the bathroom, don't wash their hands, dig in their nose, dig in their ass, touch stuff, stick fingers in their mouths, lick their fingers. Like, people do a lot of stuff. And everything we touch is covered in germs anyway. Touching their dogs, anything you can think of, I'm pretty sure someone has done it. So, I mean, you can be scared to fly if you want to, but I would just say I've never gotten sick coming back from a trip, other than when I had like a parasite or something, or food poisoning, whatever it was. That's the only time I've ever really gotten sick. And think that was the food at the resort versus me touching something on the plane. But obviously, just keep your hands out your mouth. Keep your hands away from your eyes. Like, you that's just a good thing to practice. That way you don't really have to think about it, because you just got to make it a habit to not do it, because like I said, the outside world is nasty. So when you're on your next catching flights instead of feelings little trip, just be wary of the fact that you are coming into contact with lots of germs. And I would say pack your little sanitizing wipes with you everywhere you go. So, in conclusion, the dirtiest part of an airplane is the sink handle, which makes sense because as once you use the bathroom to do your business, hopefully people wash their hands. So obviously that's going to be the dirtiest part. I would recommend trying to use a paper towel to turn off the sink, which that goes for any public restroom that you're using. The next dirtiest place in the airplane is the tray table, which makes sense because pretty much everybody touches those at some point in time, which is kind of scary when you think that especially if you're on a flight where you get little snacks or whatever. So you're touching the tray table to pull it down, and then you're reaching into the bag of snacks with that same hand. So maybe sanitize your hands after you pull the tray table down and before you reach for your snacks. The third dirtiest place was the inside bathroom door handle, which again makes sense because people are closing it when they come in the bathroom, and then if they are not washing their hands, they are touching it on the way out. Fourth is the belt buckle, which of course everybody has to touch at some point. And I'm kind of surprised it's not higher on the list, but I do feel like a lot of people do try to sanitize their hands, especially when they were giving away the little sanitizing wipes and stuff. The fifth is the armrest, then the seat pocket, then the headrest, which kind of makes me feel a little better that it's far down on the list. Then the toilet flush button, which probably means that people are not flushing the toilet, which is kind of scary. And then the window shade, which I always put it up unless I'm trying to sleep on a flight. But I know a lot of people don't like the sun shining in because it does make it hotter in the plane. So that's not surprising that that's so low down on the list. And the one, the lowest that had 0 ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate, present in the swabs when they do the test. I guess that shows how germy a surface is. The emergency card didn't have anything, which makes me, I've took enough flights to not really need the emergency card. I could probably do the little spiel that the stewardess do on my own. So it's very interesting, all the germs that we expose ourselves to on a daily basis. But I would just say be cautious and be cognizant of what you're touching, and really just keep your hands out your mouth. I mean, your hands and away from your eyes, because your hands are going to get dirty. But I mean, that we live in a dirty world, so that's pretty much next to impossible to avoid it. But anyway, that concludes this week's episode. You can find my podcast on Spotify for podcasters and also on Anchor. And then I just recently started uploading to YouTube as well. And you can find it on my YouTube channel, which is just my first and last name. Talk to you guys later.